All right, everybody, the events that are happening right now are going to shape the next couple of weeks. The Kremlin has said that the situation between the United States of America and Russia is at a pivotal point. They say it's a very dangerous point of confrontation. Russia is warning the United States that it has already crossed a red line by sending long-range weapons to the Russian opposition in Europe. And the continuation, they say, of this practice will have dire consequences for all of America. We're starting to see a grouping of South American countries backing Russia and moving away from United States allegiances. And with that grouping, you might see Russia begin to arm them in ways that the USA is not prepared to handle. Speaking at an event on Tuesday, Israel is calling on the USA to lead a charge of aggressive military action against Iran. They are warning that Israel will not hesitate to activate its power anywhere in the world to protect its citizens. This is suspected to be a report after Israel rescued citizens from an Iranian attempt to abduct or kidnap or even kill Israeli citizens in the country of Turkey. Israel's security arm is doing everything it can to thwart such attacks and to preemptively neutralize those dispatching the terrorists and the dispatchers as well. The leader to Israel is quoted as saying. In the face of this nearing of a nuclear conflict, the official transcript notes that Israel is calling on America not just for cooperation, but to create a regional force with American leadership that will strengthen all parties involved. Now, Biden, of course, not the strongest of ever military leaders that are in the presidential position. He is going to talk with Saudi Arabia right now and with Israel and a couple of other countries. And we can hope that there are strong military leaders going with them to sort of direct the forward motion of the U.S. military in the next couple of months. Now, I say we can hope because if it's done wrong, it's going to affect you and I here at our homeland. If it's done right, we might have continued stability even through the corruption that comes about with military confrontation outside of America's borders. The leader to France is saying that they did everything they could to avoid a war in the Russian conflict. And military strategists are saying that what was done was not enough. This conflict is expected to last 6 months, 8 months, 2 years even, and it's going to be lasting that long because you're going to see NATO, Europe, the United States of America, other countries come into the fold in this theater. The U.S. Energy Department has announced a contract to award and issue emergency sales of U.S. crude oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the very same reserve that is at its
Hood is the cottage cheese lovers love. Why? Our country style has more protein than hummus.
Lowest levels since 1987. We're being stripped of everything that we have held on to. Basically, America's bank account is being robbed. We're giving away our weapons to the Russian opposition with no way of making new weapons in enough time. We're giving away money that should be going to American infrastructure, or even better yet, reducing the taxes and the corruption that is being placed by inflationary measures onto the American people. Rather than giving $5 billion, $10 billion to the Ukrainians, why aren't they giving that to the American people who all day long, up and down on news outlets, they'll say, Biden acknowledges, the White House acknowledges, the Federal Reserve says, and they'll say all day long that the American people are suffering under the economic crisis that is striking the country. But do they do anything about it? No. Do they help you in any way? No. They point all of their money to ways that they can in turn just put it through a shell game and put it right back into their pockets. Guess what? If you don't believe that they have already corporate structures set up by politicians from America in Ukraine, you are absolutely being misled. The same exact thing happened in Iraq. The same things happened in Libya. It happens all over. The United States of America and all the politicians move in there. They set up corporations under defense measures or logistics or administration purposes. And then these defensive, logistical, or administrative corporations are the ones that get these billions of dollars, and it funnels right back into the pocketbooks of American politicians. This is a game of us versus them. The American people are just starting to wake up, and we're starting to see reports that people aren't even driving anymore if it's not going to make them money or buy them food. They're not even getting into their car because gas prices, these oil corporations, the refineries have seen 225% profit. What have you seen? Any relief? Absolutely not. Crude might be down, but does that matter to them? No. You're going to keep seeing prices increase, and there's this very vague threat of administrative responsibilities and that the U.S. could put in defense production acts and artificially lower prices, but that's just more of the same shell game. It's more of the admission that the White House is laser focused on your hurt and your pain, but do they do anything about it? Absolutely not. Will they do anything about it? No. The only time you're going to see real change affected here in the United States of America is under constant catastrophic strife. We're just at the beginning, the birthing pains, so to say, of this crisis, this economic crisis, where you're just starting to feel the contractions. The country is just starting to say, hold on, this life sucks that you have put me into. You mean I'm making less when I have to pay more, but I'm working harder because I have to work 2 jobs or 2.5 jobs, just like the Federal Reserve said that it was a good thing inflation was rising so that I would have to pick up a second job? You mean to tell me that this is my life? And that's the sentiment that is being felt by Americans in large. They're done with it. They're angered. They're depressed. They're sad at the direction that this country has taken. Soon, you're going to start to see violence as a direct result, not just a correlation, but as the direct result of this economic crisis. You have correlation, where things just seem to happen side by side, and then you have causation. This economic crisis that has been artificial and allowed to happen in the greatest robbery of American household wealth in the last 50 years, 50 plus years, this is going to come and bite them where it hurts. And you're starting to see this by the Department of Homeland Security warning politicians, warning government agencies, warning the police department that they're expecting attacks on government infrastructure, individuals at their homes. They're making it illegal to share the addresses of public politicians. Those politicians are meant to support and represent the American people, but it is obvious that they are not. They are a separation from you and me. They are nothing like you and I. They eat Wagyu beef while telling us that we need to eat artificially flavored vegetable products, vegetable chicken nuggets, while they're eating the most expensive, most well cared for, grass-fed, organic, never had a chemical put inside of it, never had an antibiotic beef at their expensive dinners, drinking out of their metal chalices. They're telling you and me, enjoy your stovetop stuffing and eat your vegetable chicken nuggets. It's your fault that the climate is changing. It's not the fact that they're driving their private jets everywhere around the world to make these important meetings where they can eat these products or have their coke-filled prostitute nightlife. No, it's nothing like that. It's your fault. So why don't you get back out there, pick up that 3rd job, go to the gas station, stop whining, you little baby, pay your $6, $7, $8, $9, $10, $11 a gallon. Just shut up about it and get back to work. That's exactly what they want. But the Department of Homeland Security knows, because they watch sentiment analysis just like we do here on this channel. You know because you feel it by talking with your friends and family. People are fed up. They are just absolutely done. And when that time comes, violence rises with it. And so it's important that you and I not only don't give in to that urge for retribution, it's also important that we watch out for the people that do. So when you go to the grocery store, when you're sitting in line at the gas station, know that those are potential targets. When you're standing nearby a person who just looks angered and they're yelling, and Kelly and I saw, we had to go to the DMV just the other day, and this guy And it took a long time for their private security, their private armed security, which shouldn't they have government security at this government organization? So it took a long time for their private armed security to even wake up to the fact that this guy is yelling and near threatening the teller because she is refusing to give him a title to something that he believes that is owed him without having to pay anything because he couldn't afford to. He's yelling and screaming and losing it. And
I was paying for in-flight Wi-Fi for months before I finally caught it. Truebill uncovers hidden subscriptions and no...
You see other people, they're standing by. There's no metal detectors getting into this place. There's no way of them knowing if he carried a tool of projection, a tool of offensive kinetic projection. There's absolutely no way of knowing. And so people who aren't aware, and I could only see maybe 2 or 3 other people who are aware. One of them was an employee, and they finally had to go over and get the oblivious security guard who was sitting there just standing in the corner to come over and stand close to this individual just in case things went rowdy. People are losing it. They're getting more and more mad every day. Those who aren't mad are depressed. Those who aren't depressed are, feeling something inside. They're feeling like they are being personally tested, as we talked about in yesterday's video. So just know that a change in the tide is coming. And as the tide changes, you have to watch out for all of the effects thereof. U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff CENTCOM says that a 10-day joint U.S. and UAE naval exercise, the Iron Defender, has begun. Turkey is continuing to amass troops near the border and into different regions as Russia warns Turkey that no good is going to come of its operations in Syria. The European Commission president says that we will sign an agreement between the European Union, Egypt, and Israel with the aim of making up for Russian gas exportation restrictions. Wholesale prices have risen multiple percentage points in May in what will soon to be a record growth in annual pace of price increases. Economists are sounding the alarm bell after reports showed that hedge fund selling has hit historic levels. Hedge funds tracked by Goldman Sachs offloaded U.S. equities for a 7th straight day earlier this week, with the dollar amount of selling over the last 2 sessions exploding in levels that have not been seen since tracking began in April of 2008. The exiting is coming as the equity rout worsened amid concerns that the Federal Reserve will not just increase but hasten its inflation-fighting campaign. In a note published Tuesday, Goldman said that short sales at hedge funds climbed aggressively. They're saying the market is going down further, Benjamin Dunn, the president of Alpha Theory Advisors, said by phone. Sentiment is that it's in the toilet. And that's exactly right. You see it, I see it, the stock market sees it. Look, crypto's down, Bitcoin's down 30% just in the last, I believe it was 5 days that I looked at it. I talked to a couple of people who have investments in Bitcoin right now, and they're in the position where some of them are still on the upside, some of them are severely on the downside, and they just don't see an end in sight. They acknowledge that they're going to have to now at this position, because it's dropped so much, just hold it in the hopes that it comes back. And that's really what we're going to keep on seeing. I have a couple of other friends who are heavily invested in different firms and their own stock portfolios, of which I have none personally, because I believe in real asset investing and not portfolio investing. But they, again, are going to have to hold on to it because they hope, they put 10 years into this, and they hope that one day they're going to see green again, because right now it's red across the board. This market is in trouble, and it's not just in trouble at a national level. It's in trouble across the world. The equity sell-off picked up pace, and it's going to continue, according to economists. You can expect meat prices to skyrocket once again. This is after farmers across the United States of America are reporting massive amounts of cattle die-offs, and I'm talking tens of thousands of heads of cattle dead across the country. 10K alone in one state that has been affected. Others reporting new disease and new death figures every day. Corbett Wall, he's a cattle analyst with National Beef Wire. He works out of Texas. He told different reporting agencies that they expect prices to increase exponentially. We expect this. You expect this. We see other reporting agencies saying the same thing. We just saw another, what was it, 25% increase on chicken, canned chicken at Sam's Club. A 1 week increase of 25%. This is madness. People can't feed their kids and put gas in their gas tank. And there's no end in sight. The red line is way back there. It's been crossed. And no matter, and I saw this big PR campaign from Walmart and Target in a cooperative advertisement saying, look, we're going to help you. And we're putting these things that you don't need on sale. You want a new air fryer? How's that taste? Oh, you want some new comforters and a new pillow set? Let me know how that feels in your children's stomach. Can you crush up that new television and put it into your gas tank? They know that people aren't buying those unnecessary goods anymore, so they're going, oh, okay, well, we may have pushed that a little bit too far, but don't worry, because we got to give those multi-million-dollar profit increase rewards to our CEOs. The shareholders, happier than ever. But maybe we pushed it too far, and so they're pedaling back a little bit on those things that don't matter. But we've reached that point that we've talked about on this channel for years. There's a triangle. Fuel, food, and housing. There's no coming back on any of those. They've screwed each one of those to the point of no return. Food, because of fertilizer, because of restrictions, because of topsoil that is no longer able to produce what it used to, because of climate conditions, it won't come down. Housing, because of inflation, because of corruption, because of an allowance at the private level for apartment complexes and these people who are invested from other countries saying, oh, well, we're going to raise your rent 30%, 40%. No, the place isn't costing us anymore. You pay your own electricity, so it's not because of that. No one's coming there, so there's no fuel surcharge. It's nothing but a rigged game. And once one person does it, and then another, and then if everybody does it, well, then they make billions. They will make trillions. Same thing with the gas stations. It's a rigged game. Groceries, gas, and where you live. It's not coming down, and it has reached a point where now civil unrest is going to come from it. Social chaos is going to be unleashed because of it. We're talking what some will call and continue to call biblical proportions of plague, famine, and pestilence. The government agencies across the world are already warning that they are beginning to see an exodus from countries like Africa into neighboring nations, neighboring countries. We're going to see a huge refugee migration. Now, in America, you might be thinking, well, it's not going to affect me too much, but it will. In Europe, you might see that effect a little bit closer. You know what you will see in America? More homeless, more desperation, more depression. And is that the world you want to live in? But it's the one we're going to have to. And so we have to persevere to get through it. We have to wait because people are going to act up and act out. We have to be ready that their actions don't negatively affect our families, our kids, our parents. We have to watch out for each other and build better groups together, because only in doing that are we going to have a chance at these next couple of years. So the White House is saying that the Defense Department, or excuse me, the government is ready to
T-ball on Friday, swim lessons on Saturday.
And car shopping? How about car shopping right here?
use the Defense Production Act. The United Nations is warning of an increase in the number of displaced people. The Federal Reserve is saying that they are acutely aware of costs imposed by high inflation. You remember that movie Trading Places, where those two rich pricks, those two rich young men, they made a bet on ruining the life, turning the life of a well-to-do upside down, a middle classer, a well-to-do upside down, and then increasing the life of a poorly off individual for $1. That movie, its vision is so true. Because the people at the different level between a millionaire and a billionaire, the people at the level who are comfortable, and then those who will never have to think about money again, those are different worlds, run by different people in different universes, in different galaxies. They'll never see eye to eye. So when you have the Federal Reserve saying things like, we're acutely aware of how bad this is for you, they're just going back to their island house or their third mansion, or driving their, they're having their driver pick them up and take them somewhere. They don't have any awareness for how bad things are for other people. Even worse than that, they don't even have empathy. You cannot feel the feelings of another person, but have empathy for them. And that is non-existent. Inflation, according to the same Federal Reserve chairman, has surprised us to the upside. Some expectations have risen. There's a much bigger chance now that it will depend on factors outside of our control. We just don't know if we can do it, they say, speaking of a soft landing. This crisis is worsening by the day. It's beginning to become visually apparent to the majority that it's going to get worse before it gets better. But our message here is of hope. You have to stick to the motto. Do your chores, do your prep work, and then have fun. Today's prep work, this month's prep work, needs to be in one of those three places: fuel, food, or housing. What can you do there? Can you secure it that you'll have housing longer? In some cases, you can work with a landlord. You can get out of your house before the market completely blips off the face of the ticker. You can buy something cheaper with money left over. Buy it outright. Don't be paying on a mortgage anymore. Maybe that's something you can do. But again, that's out of the reach of the majority. So, fuel. Can you buy fuel today? It's hard to save a lot of fuel, enough to make it matter. You need to put some aside for emergencies, but it's hard to save who can save a month's worth of fuel? I can't. I'm sure that many of you can't, unless you live on a farm with existing infrastructure to be able to do that. It's inconceivable. So what can you do? You can do food, and then you can work on security. Remember the rule of threes. You have 3 moments in time. I don't like to say seconds because it's really moments in time. It might be milliseconds to react to a dangerous action. So the guy comes up with a knife. Somebody pulls out a projectile tool. You have 3 moments in time to react. You can live 3 minutes without air before the old brain stops working, or you get severe brain damage. 3 days without water. So what can we do with the 3 minutes without air? Take first aid classes. Know how to open up a trachea. Know what to do for a chest wound, a sucking chest wound, so the person doesn't drown in their own blood. First aid like this is going to save lives. What about just a person having a seizure? Knowing what to do there. Have you ever thought about buying smelling salts for a person who passes out? It's these simple things that don't cost any money or very little money that you can do to save that 3 minutes without air. 3 days without water. You need to think about filtration and finding and mapping out local water sources. I see water here right beside us. I know there's water right there behind us. We've already mapped out this area. If I have to, I see fuel all around me, and I know where there's an unending amount of salt water, and I can distill that salt water. Then fuel becomes your problem. But have those options. Have a filter. Something like the Sawyer Mini, $20. You're not going to take out all the oil that has dripped into that water. You're going to need something like a Berkey with Berkey Blacks, or a sand filter that you make with the algae layer on top. Storm asked in a comment that I just saw this morning about that algae layer on top. It's called a schmutz deck. Storm asked, how long does that take for it to build? And that really depends on a lot of different environmental restrictions. What's the humidity like? How much water are you putting through it? If I remember right, just off the top of my head, it's something like 3 weeks of time. Now, that's okay. You still use the sand filter in that time because you're still getting clean water, but you're not getting as pure of water with those different organic and inorganic compounds removed from it. But what are your choices at that point in time? 3 weeks of exposure versus a lifetime of exposure is a whole different world. And so you can bet that I'm going to continue drinking that water while the algae layer on top builds. And in fact, the higher it builds, the larger it builds, the longer it builds, the better it gets. So you've got a sand filter. And Storm, you're a member on Patreon. If you go to one of our first posts ever, and I know Patreon's not the best on clicking more and more and more, and if you email me directly, I'll try and find the PDF and send it to you. I built a PDF on making a sand filter. I'll send it over to you. That's water. 3 weeks without food. Now, you're going to see people in the comments about water say, oh, I went 10 days. No, they didn't. Oh, I went 3 weeks without water. No, you didn't. I'm sorry to call out delusions, but we have them existing. I remember my mother at one point in time would tell my wife and I didn't eat anything today. But we were around her and watched her eat, just some Cheez-Its, maybe some Wheat Thins, a little bit of salad. But she believed that she didn't eat anything because it wasn't a full meal. So you'll have individuals who maybe drink a little bit, believe that they didn't drink any water. You have 3 days, folks. On day 2, you're starting to lose your cognitive ability. Sure, if you do nothing and you sit in a chair all day in perfect environments with lots of humidity and you're not sweating, maybe you'll get to day 4. Maybe you're even a freak of nature and you'll get to day 6. But if you bet on getting to day 6, you're going to die. Don't do it. Be prepared to get water on day 0. Make sure you find it by day 1. 3 weeks of food. Get your pantry together right now. Prices are going up and it's not going to stop soon. You have to be able to protect it and hold on to it. Security is very, very important. That's a really pretty white dove over there, Cal. Security is very, very important. Guys, the time is right now to get ready. Keep watching what is happening in the world. Keep your family safe, your children safe. Think about where they're going. Is it safe where they're going? Think about your parents, your siblings, the people that you care about, your neighbors that you love. Start making groups right now. You don't have to tell everybody, hey, I've got 10 years worth of food, so don't worry about anything, neighbor Joe. No, you tell Joe, these prices are getting really bad. You think maybe we should start, buying to hedge against inflation? And then in Joe's mind, all you've got is day 0 right now. You don't have extra food. You've got as much as he buys as he continues a buying plan. Don't give away anything to anyone except knowledge. Help people where you can, when you can. That's why this community is so important. We get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments that help people every day. If you have a question, leave the word question first. If you have time, go find a question and answer it. It saves lives. And that's what this community is about. Thank you guys for being here with us. Make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube at Full Spectrum Survival. It's the only place we publish videos. We're making them every day. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure that you leave a comment and a thumbs up. From my family to yours, please stay safe and keep watch. This week's Full Spectrum News is brought to us by each one of you, all of our members on Patreon, and nutrientsurvival.com/FSS, like Full Spectrum Survival. It's where you go for long-term food storage. Once you have your rice and chicken and all of that, use the code FSS10. You're going to get 10% off of your order. You're going to need it because quality comes at a cost. JaceMedical.com/FSS. Real doctors giving real prescriptions to real antibiotics. Make sure you use that link because then they know they're helping our community. Please, everyone, stay safe. Keep watching what's happening out there and love your neighbors. Get them ready when you can.